Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Hey, Bo. It's not working, bro. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama. He's just trying to be special. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare. Come on, Prabhu. Well, you're wasting time and look, it's recording now. Hare Krishna, Hare. And the next RT will be at 7 p.m.
That's okay. Hare Krishna. It's loud enough. Hare Krishna. Can everyone hear me? Yeah, I can hear you. So we'll be having a Bhagavad Gita class now till 7 o'clock. And you're most welcome to stay if you so desire. And we'll be having the next arati at 7 o'clock as well. So, yeah. And we'll just have a short kirtan and we'll just speak something from Bhagavad Gita. So, please join in the kirtan if you know. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopijana Vallabha Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Gokula Nanda Radha Gokula Nanda Radhe Radha Gokula Nanda Radha Gokula Nanda Radhe Jaya Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman Jaya Gauranitai, 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 Jaya Gauranitai, 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 Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, 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 Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Nitya Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitya Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitya Gaura Hari Bol. Sai Go Premanande. Hare Krishna. So, yeah, as I mentioned, we'll be having a Bhagavad Gita class. If you like, you could please attend, as you desire. And there's also mats there next to the door. So if you want to sit on a mat, it's much comfortable than sitting on the hard floor. So today we are discussing Bhagavad Gita chapter 2, text 57, which is on the board. So I'll repeat the Sanskrit, and if you like, you could also please repeat with me, after me. So, yeah, it's just call and response. Yaha sarvatra abhinasnas. Yaha sarvatra abhinasnas. Go down. Scroll down. Basically, on the back of the keyboard, there's a button on the side. Look. It's locked. Okay. I can do it again. Tata prapya shubha shubham. Tata prapya shubha shubham. Navinandanti nadveshti. Naminandanti nadveshti. Tasra prajna patistitaha. Tasya prajna patistita. Yaha sarvatra abhisnaha. Yaha sarvatra abhinasnahas. Tatra prapya shubha shubham. Nabi nandanti nadveshti. Tasya prajna pratistita. So, does anyone want to repeat? Yaha sarvatra abhisnehas. Atta prapya shubha shubham. Nabhinandanti nadveshti. Tasya prajna pratistita. So we could go for word-to-word translation. So I will say one word and you can repeat after me. So, Yaha, one who, Sarvatra, everywhere, Anabhin sneha, without affection, Tat, Prapya, achieving, Subha, good, Ashubham, evil, Na, never, Abhinandanti, praises, Na, never, Dvesti, envies, Tasya, his, Prajna, perfect knowledge, Pratistita, fixed. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. In the material world, one who is unaffected by whatever good or evil he may obtain, neither praising it nor dispraising it, is firmly fixed in perfect knowledge. Purport. There is always some upheaval in the material world, which may be good or evil. One is not agitated by such material upheavals, who is unaffected by good and evil. It is to be understood to be fixed in Krishna consciousness. As long as one is in the material world, there is always the possibility of good and evil, because this world is full of duality. But one who is fixed in Krishna consciousness is not affected by good and evil, because he is simply concerned with Krishna, who is all good absolute. Such consciousness is in Krishna situates one in a perfect transcendental position called technically samadhi. Hare Krishna. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmitam Yenam Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Snapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupam Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Jai Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Thank you for coming. So this verse is actually, I assume everyone here knows about Bhagavad Gita. Put your hand up if you know about Bhagavad Gita, if you have heard. Put your hand up if you have read Bhagavad Gita, at least something. Have you read the whole thing? Put your hand up if you've read the whole Bhagavad Gita. Ah, only 2. So you guys have some work to do when you get back. Today's actually Ekadashi. So Ekadashi is said to be the mother of devotion. So anything you do on this day bears an eternal credit in a spiritual bank account. So if you really want to be rich, like genuinely be rich, then you have to do something spiritual, which will stay with you forever. So, yeah, Bhagavad Gita is a wonderful book. It's a conversation between 2 friends on a battlefield. And one decides to become a student, and one decides to become a teacher. And they're just, for all of our benefit, they're just having this circumstance in the middle of a battlefield that one friend is depressed, and the other friend is trying to consult him as a friend and as a teacher. So, yeah, it's a wonderful book. And so the Bhagavad Gita, this is actually very beginning of Bhagavad Gita, you could say, because Krishna has only started speaking around like 40 verses or so before. So whole of chapter 1 is Arjuna just telling Krishna, I'm just like depressed and I don't know what to do. I'm losing myself, I can't control my senses. I've lost my sense of composure. There's all these people on the battlefield who I don't want to fight, like my family, my teachers, my well-wishers, all these people who have literally grown me up from a little baby, and I don't want to kill them. And Krishna's there, just listening to him. Krishna's just smiling on the chariot, like, oh, Arjuna's going through this, and Krishna just smiling. Then finally, Arjuna decides to tell Krishna, I don't know what to do. Can you please help me? And then Krishna jokingly says, oh, Arjuna, you're speaking like a learned man, but you're mourning for what is not worthy of grief. You sound like a fool. You sound like a bad student. Like, what are you doing with your life, you know? So, and then Krishna starts to speak around verse like 11 of this chapter. So this chapter it's been titled as the contents of the Gita summarized. So actually the whole of Bhagavad Gita is summarized in chapter 2. So if you get a chance, you can read the whole of Bhagavad Gita today by reading the chapter 2. And if you really read the purpose as well, you could understand how every single verse of this chapter, it's just mind-blowing actually. Especially this verse and like this section of verses. It's just Krishna understanding Arjuna, like become Krishna conscious. So and then chapter 2, when Krishna starts to speak, Krishna is talking about, he starts with very basic understanding of who you are. Like Arjuna is presenting, like, I don't want to kill anyone. And Krishna is telling him, you actually can't kill anyone because you're not the killer, you're a soul, and the other person's also a soul. So you could never hurt the other person. And Krishna is there describing the qualities of the soul. as a soul to be, it can't be motioned by water, it can't be burned by a fire, it can't be slain by any weapon, because it's eternal spark. So Prabhupada describes how Krishna starts to tell Arjuna in a very analytical way, very theoretical way of that you're not this body, you're a spirit soul. And that's actually, if you think, that's the first understanding in spiritual life. When you start spiritual life, the first thing that someone tells you is like, if you come to the temple or if you go to somewhere spiritual, is that you're not this body. And it's not just you're not this body, but you're a spirit soul who's eternal, full of bliss and full of knowledge. And because if you're forgotten that, you're identifying yourself with all these emotions, all these traumas, all this stress, all these bodily connections, relations, but you're actually meant to be blissful. And in one of the purports, Prabhupada says how it's embarrassing for the spirit soul to be in a material body, because the spirit soul is eternal. And if you compare eternity with something that's 100 years, it's like really embarrassing. So yeah, Krishna is talking about analytical study of the soul. Then he goes to karma yoga, of doing work without future results and freeing yourself from bondage of work. So he also tells of, if you do this, then you have much better chance to live prosperously, even if you want to live in this world, if you identify yourself with the body. And by working without future results or desiring to have future results, you can get over the bondage of results, the fruits of the actions. And if you do this slowly, then you come to the platform of understanding that there is something beyond this mature world. There's some sort of happiness, some sort of pleasure, which will actually fulfill all your desires, all your ambitions, or your cravings. So yeah, Krishna is just telling Arjuna about the karma yoga. And then Arjuna asks this question in a few verses back: what are the symptoms of someone who's merged in transcendence? So Prabhupada talks about transcendence as like being Krishna conscious, in a sense, because transcendence means something beyond. You're transcending something material. And because Arjuna is asking this question, Krishna explains the importance of working without desires, as I said. And then he also describes how you should work without getting bewildered by the Vedas. And Krishna talks about how the Vedas, they are compiled in such a way. Krishna actually uses the word flowery language, or Prabhupada uses the word flowery words that the Vedas offer. So Vedas offer one to go to the heavenly planets, to enjoy in this world, to be prosperous, and this is like karma, artha, moksha, like economic development, even up to the point of liberation. The Vedas offer. And Krishna describes all these people who are trying to enjoy the fruits of the Vedas or trying to pluck some fruits from the Vedas as misers, because they actually have no ultimate goal in life. So then Krishna talks about in the next verse how you should give up sense gratification, which comes from concocted consciousness. And with a purified mind, you should focus on something that's eternal. And then Krishna talks about how someone who's in transcendental consciousness, a stage of steady mind, he is undisturbed amongst the three forms of miseries which come from the body, the nature, the higher powers. And when one becomes tolerant or undisturbed from such temptations or like pricks that comes to our soul, like this stresses, anxieties, miseries, then we have a intelligence with which we can think. When we are in pain, suffering, we can't really think much. Our consciousness of intelligence is very narrowed down in intelligence. In suffering, in misery. So Krishna says, when you become tolerant about all these miseries, all these pains, then intelligence is broadened. With that broadened intelligence, you can discriminate between temporary and eternal. So this verse also talks about how there's good and evil. But then Prabhupada talks about how one who's firmly fixed in perfect knowledge is not praising it nor dispraising it, is equal amongst evil or good, because he understands this as Krishna's ultimate plan. Actually, in the verse before, in the Prabhupada describes how a devotee sees everything as favor of Krishna. If he's enjoying something, he just thinks this as to be something that undeserving, and Krishna is just being very kind. And if he's suffering, and he thinks that Krishna is just being very kind and is mitigating the suffering so much that if my leg was to be chopped off, he'd just give me a little cut. So that's the vision of a devotee with the transcendental intelligence. So in our answer to Arjuna's question of what are the symptoms of a sage of a steady mind, this is one of the verses that comes up, and Prabhupada describes how such a person is, literally the whole purport is like, you see like every single sentence just talks about good and evil. Like this person is not agitated by good and evil, he's not praising it, not dispraising it. And at the end, Prabhupada talks about how someone who is in such consciousness is actually in samadhi. So samadhi, we use this word samadhi to be something of like, you just sit down and you don't move at all, you don't eat, you don't blink, you just stare like a rock. That's one sort of samadhi, but then there is a higher samadhi, you could say, which is being engaged in the world whilst having the consciousness of a sage who's actually in samadhi. So Prabhupada describes how someone who's firmly fixed in perfect knowledge is actually in samadhi all the time, because they're always in contact with Krishna. And if you're in contact with Krishna, there's nothing bad that comes your way. In one of the purports in the passing of Bhishma Dev in Bhagavatam, Prabhupada describes how Krishna can never bring a misfortune to anyone, what to speak of his devotees. So when one is in contact with Krishna through perfect knowledge, then that person is always protected by Krishna. So, let me just track back. So also and some might say like how devotees they become so indifferent to everything around them that they become so desensitive, right? Desensitive to the pains and the miseries of the world. Like someone joins like a temple and they're like, this person's just gone off the track and he doesn't care about anything in the world, and he's just closed off from the whole world. But actually, when a person who's desensitized from material things, there's much higher sensitivity they put themselves into, and which is spiritual sensitivity. And on that spiritual sensitivity, they could understand that every single person, every single entity, like in the material bodies, they're spirit souls, and they try to help those spirit souls get out the conditioning they're in currently. So actually, the spiritual transcendentalists are the most sensitive people, because they can connect to someone on such a deep level, which maturely sensitive people can never connect. Mature sensitive people they can give empathy, and they can say, "Oh, it's okay," and you could never find a solution to a mature problem from a mature. So actually, you can't find a mature solution from mature. You can't get a solution from a mature problem from mature things. I feel like that. So when a spiritualist They look for the solutions for the material things from a spiritual perspective, which is never changing, eternal, and it's always fruitful. Krishna said in this one of these few verses ago, Krishna said one of the most important verses, which is that any progress you make on this path is never diminished or deteriorated. It's never lost. And that's like one of the boosts for the person who's trying to endeavor for spiritual perfection or to attain perfect knowledge. So a devotee never sees anything as good and evil because they think this as an ultimate plan of Krishna. And in short term it might be bad, but ultimately in a bigger picture, Krishna, it always falls into place and it's always perfect. They say Krishna is like the master chess player and he's like 10 moves ahead. So if you know how to play chess, it's like the most grand chess masters, that they could be like 4 or 5 moves ahead, but like to be 10 or 15 or 20 or 100 moves ahead, it's like impossible for a human brain to comprehend. And Krishna is like, he's like the supreme intelligence, so he's like way ahead, and he knows everything. We might not see it, but when we look back in our lives, we can see everything it's just perfect. Everything just perfectly falls into place. And there's this Chinese proverb about how a man lost his horses. So there was this one farmer in China, and one day he had these horses in the field, and this ran away. And all the villagers that came to him, and they were like, "Oh, we're so sorry you lost your horses, and it's like so unfortunate." And the farmer just goes, "Oh, maybe it's unfortunate." And the next day, or like a couple of days after, the horses come back. And this time the horses bring more horses. So the villagers come back to this farmer and they're like, "Oh my God, this is such a great fortune that now you have so many horses and you could do so much farming and you could do so much." And so yeah, the villagers come to him and he's like, "Oh, now you could like increase your production, you could do so much work now." And then the farmer just goes, "Yeah, maybe." And then the next day, the farmer's son is on the horse. He's trying to ride the horses because the horses which the other horses brought back, they were wild horses. So he's trying to train them, all this stuff. So the kid falls off the horse and he breaks his leg. And all the villagers come to him and he's like, "Oh, that's so unfortunate that such a young son has broken his leg and he can't do anything now. He's like bedridden." And the farmer goes, "Yeah, maybe it's unfortunate." And then a few days later, there's war going on in places around. And then everyone's getting like, what do you call it? They're taking people out to go to the war, basically. I forgot the word for it. So they come to this farmer's house and they see this young boy who's like strong, physically strong, young, who could fight in the war. And then they see he's got a broken leg. And then those officers, they're like, "Oh, no, we can't take him." So they go away. And then the villagers come and they're like, "Oh, you're so fortunate. Your son doesn't have to go to the war. So he's not at risk of death. You're not going to lose him." And then he's like, "Oh, yeah, maybe it's unfortunate." So it's like, if you have this mindset of, "Oh, maybe it's fortunate, maybe it's unfortunate." And then the whole purpose or the meaning of this is the whole process of nature, which is arranged by Krishna, is so complex that we can't understand like anything with our peanut head, peanut intelligence, or peanut mind, brain, whatever you want to say. That is so complex and it's really impossible to tell if anything's actually good or bad. Because what do we know about it? We just know from our own little perspective of what we see with our limited intelligence. So, yeah, that's a vision of a devotee who trusts Krishna, who's in knowledge that, okay, Krishna, he's my best friend, and he knows what's happening, not just to me, but to everyone else. In the later chapters in Bhagavad Gita, it says how Krishna is in everyone's heart, is a well-wisher and a best friend. So Krishna is guiding every single living entity to whatever it's meant for them. And what to speak of, like Krishna says he's not favorable to one or another. So he's equal to every single person. He's equal to us as much as he's equal to the elephants in Sahara Desert, to the snakes and the reptiles and the sharks in the ocean, which we don't even know about. Krishna is always with them, and Krishna is guiding them according to whatever is meant for them. So, yeah, a devotee puts his faith in Krishna because he's firmly fixed in perfect knowledge. So faith comes from knowing that Krishna really loves us. So, yeah. And then Krishna is describing how, actually Prabhupada describes how those are firmly fixed in knowledge, they are in samadhi, as I said. So the samadhi is being Krishna conscious, to be always conscious of Krishna, that Krishna is looking after me. So the question is like, okay, to have faith in Krishna, you need knowledge. And what to speak of, like perfect knowledge, you at least need to get started somewhere. So how do you get perfect knowledge in the world where there's like so many people who get cheated, so many false gurus, so many false sects and faiths which have no concrete philosophy or something which is not so tangible? How can I put my faith into something which I can't even perceive myself? You know, I don't see Krishna. Like, how can I put faith in someone I've never seen? And then there's one person actually giving class, and someone asked him, "Have you seen Krishna?" And he's like, "Actually, I've never seen Krishna's whole body, but I've seen Krishna's hand in my life every single day." So a devotee sees Krishna every single day. He might not see the whole beautiful form of Krishna, but a devotee sees Krishna's hand in every single thing. And this comes from being Krishna conscious, from knowledge. So, actually, let me just... Yeah. So, how knowledge is to be received, to have such trust and faith in Krishna. And Krishna describes in chapter 4 how you can get knowledge and you could get perfect knowledge. So there is knowledge and there is perfect knowledge, which is actually knowledge. You could have knowledge which is imperfect, which is sometimes man-made, because the human we have conditioning, we have 4 defects of imperfect senses, propensity to cheat, dishonesty, and one more. So a human-made knowledge is not perfect, actually, if you think about it. So Krishna says that if you really want to get knowledge, you have to go to a source which is perfect. So in chapter 4, Krishna talks about how if you want to have knowledge, just try to approach a spiritual master and inquire from him submissively. And when you inquire from him, you render service unto him. So by service, the knowledge becomes fructified. It becomes realized knowledge. So Krishna talks about Jnana Yoga a lot in Bhagavad Gita as well. But then he's also talking about Vigyan, which is realized knowledge. So perfect knowledge is actually realized knowledge, because it's perfect from the source and it's perfect from your own perceived experience. So if someone tells you to do something, you should put that into practice and you should see if it's actually working or not. Because I could tell you like, oh, if you go out the door and if you go like outside the building and there's going to be like a helicopter there, like I could tell you that, and you might be like, okay, if this guy could be authorized, this guy can be like perfect, he might have got the source perfect, but let me actually go and find out. So if you go out and if it's not there, then it's like, oh, then you have to question, like, is this person actually correct? Is this person bona fide? So there's ways to get perfect knowledge, and Krishna talks about a bona fide spiritual master, approach a bona fide spiritual master. And a spiritual master is literally a teacher who comes in the line of a teacher. So just how you go into a university or school, you have a faith in a teacher because they had a teacher who has taught them, and who had a teacher, and they had a teacher, and they had a teacher. So it's like the knowledge has been passed down, and if the teacher tells you 1 + 1 is 2, and then he's like, and you ask the teacher, how did you get it? And he's like, oh, my teacher told me this. And then you ask his teacher, and he's like, oh, my teacher told me. So this goes all the way back to the origin. And for transcendental knowledge, the original source is Krishna. So, yeah, and also you have to put in practice, like 1 + 1 = 2, the teacher tells you. And you have to test it like 1, okay, that's 2 now. So, yeah. And then Krishna actually says, like, you should go and you should approach the self-realized souls, and Krishna identifies them as darshinas, those who have seen the truth. And seeing means, there's so many verses or purports where Prabhupada says one actually sees through the ear. So when one has received the knowledge properly through the ear, and when it goes into heart, and when it becomes manifest, and the knowledge becomes vigyan and becomes realized knowledge, then that person can also transfer that knowledge to someone else. Without one having realized the knowledge, they cannot pass it on to other person. They can pass it on, just like I could read this Bhagavad Gita and I could tell all these things, and I have not realized this knowledge, but because I could give you the right reference of where I've got it from, and I could tell you that this person who I've got it from, he's realized it, that also makes this transition perfect, because I could give you a right reference and you could check it out with that person. So that's also one way to get the right knowledge, because so Krishna says, go and talk to your approach this person who has seen who are the seers. So that way you have to go and inquire from someone who's a seer. I think in South India they have this they call these saints they call them seers, and someone told me that they thought it was a Sanskrit term. It's actually not a Sanskrit term. It's actually like an English term. They call them seers, like seers, because they have seen through the ears and they realize in the heart. So it's very nice. So that's the way to get knowledge, and to get the perfect knowledge which comes in a line, which is tested and trialed, and it's been not improved, but it has been kept the same, but has been presented in an improved manner for the people of the age to understand. So, on a perfect knowledge it has this very wonderful quality that it's encompassing everyone. So perfect knowledge is simple and it's very dynamic. So perfect knowledge is like when we say a prayer to spiritual master, is like a torch or like a lamp of knowledge. So it can be perceived, even if you just have to practice in the right way for you to actually experience it. And it doesn't come from whatever background you come from, you're this, you're that, whatever you may be. Everyone has the equal right and opportunity to experience or feel the truth or have the fixed perfect knowledge. Be firmly fixed in perfect knowledge. So, and then there is in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is also talking about how the stages of knowledge. So the first qualification is you have to approach someone who has knowledge, and even to approach someone, the first qualification you should have is you should be humble. Without humility, you can never get any knowledge. Even when you go to school, you have to listen to the teacher. If the teacher tells you have to sit down in this place, and you open your notebook and you write this down. That's how the teacher can actually give you knowledge. Otherwise, if you're just there, like just walking around a classroom, then it's like, this guy doesn't want to learn, you might as well just leave the classroom. So humility is actually the first qualification to receive knowledge. And then the stage of knowledge goes from when you approach someone with humility. There's many different aspects of knowledge of what you get. And the first thing that anyone tells you, as I mentioned before, is like, you're the spirit soul and you're not this gross or the subtle body. And we sometimes think, I'm not this body, but at the same time you identify yourself with the mind so much that you think, oh, these emotions are me. I'm happy, I'm stressed, I'm angry at this person. It's actually understanding that your spirit soul is moving above even the subtle platform of understanding that you're not these emotions. So when you get fried out with someone, it's like, oh, this person's really annoying me. But actually, if you have knowledge, then you could just see like, this person is spirit soul, and he's also as blissful as I am. But because we are contaminated with 3 modes of material nature, all these mixing and stuff, or the modes, all this is coming out. So that's first or the second stage of understanding that you're not the gross or the subtle aspects that you identify yourself with. And then the next stage is to understand that you're an individual soul, and with you, your eternal companion is a super soul who's in everyone's heart. And it's described that they're like 2 birds on a branch of a tree, and we are eating of fruits, and Krishna as a super soul is just looking at us. And as a super soul, he accompanies us to wherever we go, and he's always looking after us. We could be in a pig's body or in a human body. We could be on that planet or this planet. Krishna is always with us because he knows that we are not this body, and we should identify ourselves with this. Then there's this understanding of, then when you understand, okay, I'm spirit soul, then there's super soul, and I'm not this body, then there is detachment from temporary identifications. So one becomes favorably detached from mature identifications of, okay, I'm not this body, so that means I don't actually belong to this nation, or I don't belong to this, or I'm not this part of this, I'm not this, or I'm not that. So one actually identifies oneself on the eternal, or the original platform, as the spirit soul, as servant of Krishna. And then with this detachment, then there is this understanding of Krishna is my well-wisher. Because if you're detached from something, you can't always be detached from everything. Like, you have to be attached to something. So you have to be attached to Krishna. So when you become detached from the mature identifications, you become attached to the spiritual identification, which is something that's eternal. And when you identify yourself as the spirit soul, you understand that Krishna is my best friend and he's always wishing good for me. And then after this, actually, in Bhagavatam, there's this one chapter in Canto 2 which talks about like the Lord in the heart. It's actually a very, very heavy chapter, and it talks about like how a renunciate should just go to the forest, and they don't need a bed, they don't need to go for food. Like, what's the need of there for like a bed when you just have your hand to rest on when you're sleeping? What's the need of there, like, to go and cook food when there's just trees who are just producing so many wonderful fruits? Like, it's really heavy. And then it's like, at the end, it's like talking about, because this person has such conviction that Krishna is within my heart and is always going to guide me. Just as if Krishna is looking after like elephants who eat like tons of food every day, like, how come he won't look after me if I'm trying to do something for him? So a devotee has this such conviction based on knowledge. And then there is also after this chapter, the Lord in the heart, there's this chapter which is called the change of heart, and which is also a very heavy chapter of like, oh, what are you doing in this world? So then there's, when you understand that, then you actually, it just changes your heart, and the transcend to spiritual heart. And then on this platform, you become joyful because it's your constitutional position to be happy. And there's change of heart, and then there's attachment to Krishna. So those are the different stages on which Krishna talks about. I try to find how Krishna goes through different stages of knowledge, and to get to perfect knowledge, to be attached to Krishna, and as Prabhupada describes as samadhi. And that's actually real samadhi, rather than just sitting as a rock, being so useless. So, yeah, that's all from me. And we have a couple minutes if anyone has any questions or if they want to share something. It's like, if no one has questions, it's like you guys understood everything or you guys didn't understand anything of what I said. So I'll keep it as that. Does anyone have any questions? Or mm-hmm. Mm. In one of the purports in Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Prabhupada writes how Krishna is the best friend of everyone, and he always protects his devotees, and if a devotee approaches him for good advice, he will never turn him away. So you just have to tell Krishna, Krishna, see, I don't know what you're doing, but please help me see, like a prayer. And then also, then you have like Krishna answers his prayers to the devotees. Those who are in touch with Krishna, those who are firmly fixed in knowledge and Krishna consciousness, because they're so in touch with Krishna, they can see Krishna's hand. We might not be so conscious of Krishna. And Krishna says, if you become conscious of me, you pass all the obstacles of material life by my grace. So, if you are conscious of Krishna, then you'll easily be able to see his hand. So you just have to become conscious of Krishna. And if you're struggling, then you just approach someone who's conscious of Krishna. Something. So we could end it. There's 5 more minutes left. 6 more minutes left. Oh, you have a question? Oh. Keep on reading. You increase your faith by knowing. One devotee told me, I said in my last class, you can put your faith into someone knowing that you're being cared for from that person. So the more reciprocation you feel, the more you should be putting your faith in. And if there is uneven balance, then it's going to be just downhill. So if you're putting your faith, then Krishna has to reciprocate with you. So sometimes you have to take a risk and put more faith in Krishna. And Krishna, he will test you and then he will reciprocate. Yes. Yeah, that's why. What do you mean, like good or bad? In what sense? What do you consider good or bad? I mean, the wise thing you should do is you should just talk to them, or get someone else to talk to them. So, and then there's also like, then you could find out like, okay, what's happening, you know? Because otherwise, if you're like, I said like in a verse before, a couple verses before, Krishna talks about how you shouldn't concoct your own imaginations or thoughts like on something, because if you do, then it's like you actually don't know what's going on in your life. You don't know what's going on in the other person's life. So you're like, you just make assumptions. It just doesn't end well. Just arguments. So yeah, it's just good. It's just talk to them. It solves a lot of things. So yes, I'm trying myself in the process. Yeah, just knowledge is like darkness, and no, evil is like darkness, and knowledge is like light. So when you have knowledge, you will shine, and it will just take all the darkness away. Disperse the darkness. So yeah, knowledge, and knowledge comes from, as I said, you approach someone who has knowledge, reading Bhagavad Gita, and if you have any questions about Bhagavad Gita, you come here and you ask like someone in like suffering. So yeah, knowledge is there to take away the evil. So yeah, okay, we have 2 minutes left and we're ready for Arati. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Thank you for attending. I hope it was some use, and apologies if I made any mistakes. Thank you for tolerating. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Oh my god, it's a broken.